Welcome back. I'm Bob O'Donnell, filling in for Chris Perillo this week. By the way, if you want to find out a little bit about who the heck I am, you can go to my website. I'll plug it, www.everythingcomputers.com. Okay, I'm done. Now, you don't have to go deep into debt in order to turn your living room into a home theater. For about $1,000, you can get the basics. Joining us today is John Johnson, Editor-in-Chief of Secrets of Home Theater and High Fidelity. Welcome to the show, JJ.
Glad to hear you.
Hey, thanks for calling the Call for Help. So, first of all, how long have you been into home theater?
Well, I've been in hi-fi about 35 years and home theater ever since it started, maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Wow, that's great. So let's say there's a person out there, they've got a TV, and they want to get into home theater. What exactly do they need?
Well, if they've got the TV, they need three basic components. One is a DVD player.
All right.
And then you need a receiver.
Right.
To connect it to, and,
sure.
and then speakers that will be driven by the receiver, plus a subwoofer.
Right. So, and the speakers, there's typically not just two speakers, but there's actually can be 5, 6, or it can be even more than that in
The
some
typical
cases.
setup is 5 speakers, a front, left, and right, a center speaker which sits on top of the TV, 2 rear speakers, and then the subwoofer.
Great. Now, and you can either buy those separately, or you can buy them together as a package. Is that right?
Right. The most popular package today is called Home Theater in a Box, or HTB.
Right.
And because they're so popular, everybody's getting into it, and that creates competition. So you can actually get a very nice system for $1,000, which is what I brought here today.
That's great. All right, and let's talk about that. So let's say we've got $1,000. What is $1,000 going to get us in a home theater in a box system?
All right. The one that I brought today is made by Denon.
Right.
And it includes a DVD player.
Right, and a progressive scan DVD player.
Progressive scan, and with component video out that you actually could connect to a high-definition TV if you have one.
That's great.
And it includes 5 speakers.
Right.
And then the subwoofer that comes with it.
And it also includes the receiver then?
The receiver is included too.
That's great. So you've got all the various pieces you need in one box. They even throw in the cables, don't they?
They throw in some of the cables, and we can talk about that when I show you the back.
Yes. Now, speaking of cables, how does it all hook together? Is it complicated, or what's basically involved?
It's very complicated, so I wanted to show you the back of the player and the receiver to show you exactly how to do that.
All right, that's great. Let's take a look.
All right, if you're looking at the back of the DVD player, the first section on the left is the digital out, which is for the audio.
Right.
And there's both a coaxial, which has an electric wire, and there's an optical toslink cable connection. And I think the optical toslink is the one that you want to use.
Right.
And if I can pull that out of here, you can actually see the bit stream coming out of the little red light.
It's actually using light to transmit the signal, which is really cool.
Right.
And that transmits all the channels, right? It channels 5 channels plus the DVD, so all 6 channels on one cable.
It'll transmit the 5.1 of Dolby Digital. It'll transmit DTS. It'll also transmit the audio for your CD.
Excellent. Okay, now what about what are the other connections we need?
All right, we also have 2 analog audio connections on here, which you can plug into the DVD analog pair, stereo pair on the back of the receiver. And you might ask, why would you have both an optical, digital, and analog? Well, some of the newer DVD discs have high-resolution audio on them.
Gotcha.
It's 24-bit, 96 kilohertz, which is more than twice as much information as on a CD.
Right.
And because of copyright issues, you need the analog connections.
Gotcha.
So when you put that disc in, it'll play.
All right, because otherwise, if you didn't have those connections, there might be a case where you have a disc and nothing would come out.
Nothing would come out. And it would be a shame not to take advantage of the fact that you can play those on this setup.
Exactly.
Now for the video connection, what you want to use with a DVD player is called S-Video. You don't want to use the coaxial, which is also called composite video. You want to use an S-Video connection. And that will have 4 pins, which you can see in there. The reason it has 4 pins is that it is connecting the color and the brightness separately, and that gives you a much better picture.
And the final option, you can actually go with the component video, correct?
If you have a digital TV, which is the way manufacturers are all going, you'd want to use the red, green, and blue component video connections, which means three cables to your TV, and your digital television should have those component connections on the back, and that'll give you a spectacular picture.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, now, so what about, one of the big issues with home theater I know is speaker placement. Where do we need to put all these various speakers?
Okay, that's very important with home theater because you have 5 speakers.
Right.
So like I say, there's 2 front left-right speakers, which will go on either side of the television.
Okay.
and then you'll have one speaker which looks just like this that sits on top of the TV,
Right.
and then two in the back which will go on either side of your couch. You can put them on end tables or you can mount them on the wall, whatever is convenient.
And they can be either on the side or behind you, correct?
That's right. You have to. There are what's called a THX
Right.
specification, but sometimes that's not convenient because people have pictures on the wall or windows. So you
Right.
just want to make sure that
Right.
it's to your side and nearby.
And finally, where does the subwoofer go?
The subwoofer can go anywhere in the room that you like, but the way to place it is to put the subwoofer where you're sitting,
Right.
where you normally sit, and then play a movie and
Right.
walk around the room until the subwoofer sounds perfect or the
Right.
best, and then you put the subwoofer in that spot.
Oh, interesting. So you need to have a really long cable, but once you do that, you can set it up.
Right.
And then you're all set. All right, that's great. So let's hear what it sounds like.
All right.
Let's hear what we get for our $1,000. Wow, that's great. Very cool.
Now, one thing I wanted to point out is
Yeah.
that there's a lot of people who still don't like widescreen movies.
Right.
So when you get your DVD player, make sure that it has a zoom control on it, which this one does, but not every one of them does. All you do, if you don't like the widescreen, you just push the zoom control and it fills the screen.
That's great. That's a good tip to know. So,
Now, for subwoofer cables, I just wanted to point out, you will need a long cable.
Right.
You need one of a certain length. And the best way to do that is to get them online. And I get mine at bettercables.com.
okay, great. Now, speaking of subwoofers, what if you want to upgrade your system? What would you do next if you had a little bit more money to spend than $1,000?
Well, if you had this system and you wanted to upgrade, the first thing that I would upgrade to is a subwoofer.
Okay.
This one's made by Velodyne.
Right.
And it's an 8-inch sub. It has a 600-watt amplifier in it, and it will shake the walls. And subwoofer is very important to home theater because
Right.
it adds that punch.
Right, exactly. Now, what else could you add? What's another thing that you could add to the system?
I have one of these at home, and it's called a butt kicker.
Okay,
All right,
that's quite a name.
It's like a subwoofer, except instead of a cone that's on a speaker, it has a little electromagnet inside that weighs about 3 pounds.
Yeah, it's heavy.
So instead of the cone moving, this 3-pound cylinder shakes up and down. You bolt it to the underside of your lazy boy chair or your couch, and it'll actually shake the couch.
That's wild. That's wild. All right, now let's say we want to really go upscale. Where do we go next?
All right, well, I brought in this dedicated digital processor, which is made by Cinepro.
Okay.
And it's about $4,000.
Okay.
Now, the difference between this and the receiver is that the processor does not have power amplifiers in it.
Okay.
You have to get those separately, but you can go up to 500 or 600 watts per channel if you really want a big system.
Right.
And this is programmable with a PC Windows interface.
That's great. So in other words, basically, this is like a receiver minus the power amps.
That's right.
So you add this with power amps, and you get the equivalent of a receiver. But of course, at that price, hopefully you're going to get a much better quality.
You can do much finer tuning with your room.
Yeah, that's great. That is good stuff. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
I
coming on the
enjoyed
show,
being here.
JJ. Hey, for more information on home theater system, visit JJ's website. That's hometheaterhifi.com. And by the way, it's a great site. I've been there many times myself. And for details on this system, head over to our website. That's techtv.com/call for help.